Hi everyone, Miss Martin here, and today we're going to review, basically we were reviewing the entire chemical reaction unit that we've started a couple of weeks ago. We started it back when we were still in school, and we're going to take a look at disappearing gargoyles and the disappearing eggshell, and see if we can figure out what happened in both situations. So, our goal, should say 5th grade goal. Oop, there we go. 5th grade target. I can explain how chemical reactions occur all around us. So, we had our new gargoyle versus the old one, and some people were confused. I think I gave too much background info on the gargoyles. I think that video kind of threw us off a little bit because we did have some confusion on Monday's lesson. And then we're going to take a look at the Statue of Liberty later on as well, what's similar. So, Monday's assignment, how would you describe this new stone gargoyle? How would you describe this old stone gargoyle? And what were some signs in a previous experiment that there was a chemical reaction? So, the new stone gargoyle looked pretty detailed, well chiseled. You can clearly see all the facial features. The old stone gargoyle, however, I saw a lot of people say it looked old, it looked rotted away. Some people said it looked kind of moldy. The color of it has changed. So let's think back to our previous lessons. What were some signs in a previous experiment there was a chemical reaction? Color change, which if you look at the two gargoyles, there has definitely been a color change. Bubbles. There's actually areas here that look kind of pockmarked, almost like lava rock, where lava rock has bubbles in it. And some other things. So, what do you think happened to the new gargoyle over time? So, before we answer that question and connect the two, let's take a look at the egg without a shell experiment. So all I did was I took vinegar, I took a regular egg, and I soaked it in vinegar overnight. 24 hours later, there was no more hard shell on the outside of the egg. So what actually happened here? Well, we see some signs of bubbles. So we're thinking the acid had a chemical reaction with the eggshell. And it actually dissolved the eggshell. And a few people who were answering the questions on this experiment said the eggshell didn't disappear. It just dissolved into the liquid. And if you look here on the top of the liquid, you see this foamy stuff here. You see bubbles inside the liquid, so we know it gave off a carbon dioxide gas or another type of gas, and then it also had some sort of white substance that was floating on top. So we know that the shell didn't just disappear, some part of it went up into the air, the other parts were floating in the liquid. So, dissolve the eggshell into carbon dioxide, some other substances floating in the vinegar. Inside the gooey egg, I didn't show you this on the video, but I went to squeeze the egg a little later, and it popped open. So this is just like a clear, flexible covering, and the inside of the egg, if you look right here, is actually just an egg. It wasn't hard-boiled, it wasn't cooked or anything else. I could probably have put this right into the frying pan and been perfectly fine. So how does this connect to the gargoyles? That's the reason I did this experiment at the same time as talking about these gargoyles. Because I want us to see a big connection between what happened with the egg that sat in vinegar for 24 hours and this gargoyle that's been on the side of this building for hundreds of years. Both experiments had reaction with an acid. So while the eggshell dissolved into gas and other substances using vinegar, the gargoyle dissolved into gas using acids in the rain. So there are some things they call impurities, stuff in the rainwater that it doesn't really hurt your skin, but it's super, super watered down acid. Both experiments also took longer for the chemical reaction to happen. It wasn't just instantaneous. We didn't immediately make slime, and we didn't immediately see bubbles. We saw a little bit of bubbles, but it wasn't like, foaming like we've seen our baking soda vinegar experiments. So, the egg and the vinegar took about 24 hours, and that gargoyle took hundreds of years to go from well chiseled to, that rotten kind of look. So, our big goal for this lesson was chemical reactions are everywhere. They're inside your bodies. They're everywhere you look. There's probably some happening in your house right now. Just to give you another example, this is what the Statue of Liberty originally looked like back in the 1800s. It looked like a brownish gold color. It was made out of copper. And thinking back to our experiments in the classroom with the copper pennies, when copper comes into contact with an acid, it starts to change, okay? There's a chemical reaction. So after years exposed to water and air, the copper for the Statue of Liberty oxidized or rusted. It's very similar to what happened to the pennies in our classroom. So it didn't just transform into green. There was a reaction that let off some gas into the air, and then it changed what was left over behind. So our big review. So everything that we learned about chemical reactions can be summed up right here. So substances can change other substances. Substances can change but not disappear. Anything you make, it doesn't just evaporate. It just doesn't just disappear. It's still either in the air, it can be contained, and it can be found elsewhere in the area. Acids are very reactive substances. Some acids are vinegar, lemon juice. We also saw some big acids like hydrochloric acid, like the ones in the videos that are really, really reactive and very dangerous. Chemical reactions are the mixing of two or more substances that create a new substance, or new substances, brand new stuff. And gases are made of particles too small to be seen. Although we can't see them, we can see how they affect things like balloons and other things like that. So, when we wrap up here, what I want us to do, I'm going to post these questions at the end of this Edpuzzle, so you can answer the questions there. And I want to know, what is a substance that reacts with other substances? How are new substances created? And did the eggshell and the gargoyle stone actually disappear? Why or why not? So for number 3, I need at least 2 answers. All right? Let me know if you have any questions, and thanks for joining me.